Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Brain Muffin at the Movies. And it looks like Brie Larson is throwing back to the fans as well as Captain America. So we have two articles to cover with some latest Brie Larson news. And I know that some of our fans out there are worried that I'm not stalking anybody. I'm just reading the news. Okay, people? I don't even tell you whether I like it or not half the time. And I never tell you how you should think. So here we have the Avengers star Brie Larson shares throwback photo with Captain America. She shared a photo herself as a child with Captain America. Marvel Studios, Captain Marvel introduced Brie Larson's Carol Danvers to the MCU, and the heroine quickly became a fan favorite to many. I don't know about many. A few months later, Brie Larson's Captain Marvel joined forces with Chris Evans' Captain America to take on Thanos in Avengers Endgame and got punched out of the movie for 40 minutes. Something like that. However, it turns out future Captain Marvel star Brie Larson and Captain America have already crossed paths during the actress's childhood. Don't need the apostrophe S, but that's okay. On Thursday, Brie Larson shared a throwback photo of herself as a child with man dressed as Captain America, complete with the hero's trademark shield. So this is on Instagram, and let's finish the article. It's in another, I don't know why, but Firefox doesn't load them in line, but hey. Maybe it's because I got ad blockers on or whatever. Brie Larson will reprise her role as Carol Danvers in Marvel Studios' Captain Marvel sequel. Whenever that comes out, we don't know when. Full details of the film are currently unknown. Here's what I really like about these articles that will tout this. At least they're honest, because it's 99.9% of the time the very next sentence. Sometimes it's the next phrase in the sentence. She's going to be great. She's going to be great. It's going to be out there, but we don't know when it's going to happen. Is it phase 4? Is it phase 5? Is it phase? I still believe they are on. They're holding their breath isn't accurate. They're pausing, and as the dogs start barking, to see if the MCU was really going to survive without the heavy hitters Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. And if it doesn't work, I fully expect Marvel to bring them back in some kind of capacity, and it wouldn't be surprising if we get flashbacks, we get full pull forwards, someone finds out Captain America's still alive and goes and pumps, the drugs into him and all that stuff. But we'll see. So I did not include Captain Marvel, indicating the phase might be part of Phase 5 slate. It could be. I think a lot of it just depends on what's going to go on. Because I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of go off there in their separate ways, except when they want to do, say, an Avengers movie or the A-Force and let them kind of explore on their own and then have something that pulls them back together in a few years. Wouldn't surprise me. And it actually might be a good idea. That way they can go off and have their own adventures. They're sort of one-offs, not really one-offs, but sort of, on their own, but they're intertwined, but the threads are well apart. And then over next 3, 4, 5 years, they start coming together, and then they have the next big bad guy. I mean, look how long Thanos, was introduced in an after credit scene. And then, it took several years for all those parts to come together. In fact, CinemaSins made it, in their, I forget what movie it was. They said, end credit scene is, left his homework. So if you didn't know who he was, you didn't know what was going on. Time came to an end. Maybe the grave course events set in motion by Thanos that wiped out half the universe and fractured the Avengers ranks compels the remaining Avengers to take one final stand in Marvel Studios' grand conclusion. Okay, that's in game. All right, so blah blah blah. Okay, there's not really much here, and now we're on to another article. So let's look at Miss Larson. So we have Brie with one of the Teletubbies. I don't remember which one that is. It's been a long time since my kids were that size and into Teletubbies. But there you go. And I suspect this guy's probably a decent size. I suspect this isn't all his muscles. That's probably part of the suit. But this is the old Captain America. I'm glad that they restylized. This is really like an 80s, 90s edition. But and 72. As a kid, this is more or less the Captain America I grew up with. I don't remember the horns, or they're supposed to be wings. I guess it's supposed to be wings, like Mercury, right? And the shield and everything. So that's funny. But that is kind of interesting. It'd be nice if she was actually looking at the camera instead of looking away, and I have no idea. It says Throwback Thursday. Does it say how old she is here? Because Teletubbies are what? Late 90s, early 2000s. Time for Tubby bye-bye. All right. So that's that article. And then the other one, this one I've been meaning to cover for several days. Why Brie Larson says Captain Marvel definitely isn't hers anymore. Now, this I found very interesting. And see, this is where I kind of part ways with the people that are just, they don't like her no matter what she does. Because this is why I say some of the stuff she says really, really sounds like it's handlers or someone saying you have to say these things or you're not going to have the job, or, the marketing people who think that, one tweet represents 10,000 people and it really just represents one person. In fact, that one person probably has 100 Twitter accounts and the 100 bad tweets are getting a really one person. And, but that's been known for years. And there's still some of this wokeness in Hollywood. It's still getting worse. But every once in a while, I see like this little fangirl glimpse peeks out for just a half a second. From time to time, we explore the idea of how a pop culture media franchise often ends up being owned by the fans, who feels that their own certain plot directions because of their devotion to buying movie tickets. Now, and I will say that is a highly overgeneralized statement, but I'm sure there are people that are out there. I want a good story that makes sense in the context, and I don't need to be preached to. And I just want to be, if I go to a popcorn movie, give me a good story with character development, good special effects. This is why I got bored with the MCU. It was like, oh, Captain America's fighting it. It got so boring because it was the exact same formula over and over and over again. Can you say sometimes, you can sometimes see their side of it when the consumer is one who spends money on ticks and pays for streaming. When it comes to actors taking ownership of a particular character, you see some similarities. Brie Larson is one of the exceptions who spoke up about any sense of ownership over Captain Marvel. Larson has developed a particular philosophy about the characters she plays and letting them become personal experiences for her audiences. At the same time, Larson says she's able to empathize. I'll get the right word eventually, okay? I know it's not Morton Downey Jr. with the reality of her characters when acting at the moment. Brie Larson explains her acting philosophy to Variety. Okay, when Variety recent said to Larson, when Variety recently, I think, said to Larson that Captain America seems to be too good for this world, and they asked her if the character is personally important to her. Larson said she does consider the superhero important within reason. Should be a comma there. Yet uses a flow state when acting on to tap into the reality of the characters she's playing. Not sure what they mean by that. Anyway, during times when portraying a character based in reality, she often there I go. I want to say emphasize, but that's not. Empathizes and places into her mind the pain those figures might have felt. This is really awkward. See, I'm bad enough at reading, but when you have very awkward sentence structure, it just makes it worse. It definitely not only it's definitely not only about merely coming to work and realizing she's on a movie set. Larson uses her imagination to transport. Okay, this is what every actor does. No, nothing big here. No wonder any decent actor. No wonder her acting approaches are so genuine and won over Oscar voters for Room. Yeah, maybe. Even if she created a divide from Marvel fans with her approach to Captain Marvel. But how much of that was her approach and how much of that was the writers and the director? I think a lot of it was the director. She realized the impact. There's this within the very fringe leftist feminist that and that's what we get in a lot of these movies. There is this really bizarre and unfortunate belief that a woman who emotes, in particular smiles or shows any emotion, is weak. And I find this very, very similar to, it's kind of like the female version of when men cry they're weak. This macho BS that, is cowboy it up nonsense that is not true at all. I mean, there's a time for being a tough guy and there's a time for heartfelt emotion. I mean, obviously, if you're breaking down under pressure, that's not good, and there is a distinction there. And so, to me, Captain Marvel is kind of like the female version of that, as portrayed on screen. Now, I don't know what she's like in the comic books, and I know the comic books have their own problems, especially the most recent ones. So I have to believe that a lot of that is the director, right? The writers and the director saying, "Here's what we want from you, Brie. We need this, we need that." Because when the videos I've seen that Brie Larson has posted herself, in particular ones at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, she does have emotion. She does get caught up in the moment. She is a bit of a fangirl. And I think that's the real Brie. And I've said this on podcasts. I've said it in other videos. And so there's this belief that she has to be this stern, cold, conniving woman to make it in a man's world, if you will. And it's complete BS. Okay. It's complete and total BS. And the unfortunate side is the feminine side is killed. And there are a lot of left-leaning psychologists who talk about this. And it's really sad that people have gone this way. To her, Carol Danvers became a metaphorical symbol she knew would have lasting impact on future generations of young girls. So this is okay. So that's just that. Yeah, so powerful that she kept. The Kree were so wrong in what they did that she kept their symbol, their star, and all that. Larson continued to tell Variety how she always lets the symbol of her characters go so the audience can essentially take ownership of them. So here's where this is a double-edged sword. I like that. I like the concept here, right? I like that an actor wants to say, well, I'm playing a part, because this is how I read this. And I think I agree with this side of it. I'm playing a part. And the audience is really the one who owns the characters. I'm just kind of a hired person. On the flip side, you can also have the audience read way too much into a character that's not there. And I think this is what's happened with the more fanatical fans of Captain Marvel, as well as like Rey in the Star Wars fan. They don't see her as a Mary Sue. They read stuff into her that aren't there. And then the extreme end of this, you end up with the Reylo shippers, where they are reading, but these are also the same, not necessarily the same people, but a very similar mindset to people who look at the Joker and Harley Quinn and go, oh, that's such a great relationship, when it's just an abusive, psychotic relationship, and it's horrible. In other words, she wants the next generation to take hold of Captain Marvel and create their own stories, much like those in fan fiction do. Headcanon can be significant, and those mental pictures that we can have of what the characters are doing, in particular between movies or outside of a movies, or even between scenes, can really help the audience endear themselves and engross themselves in the experience. So, but again, there's some give and take there. This is very different philosophy from the usual, particularly with actors who feel like they need to wrestle control of iconic characters they played in popular movies. Now, it does go on to Jared Leto here in the next side, kind of look forward a little bit. And I would say this is very true. Jared Leto, his Joker was horrible, and Joaquin Phoenix was very well done. So there you go. And I saw this, there was a little bit of this with Adam West back when, for Batman 89, when Michael Keaton was cast, and I was one of those naysayers. I'm like, Michael Keaton is Batman, you got to be kidding. So this is why I've kind of pulled back my judgment on the glamour the Batman that might be coming. But Adam West pulled out of the movie because he saw they were going back. But see, he played the campy version, and there were a lot of people who hated that. That was a very goofy Batman, but the real Batman would not play well on network television back in the 60s and 70s. So that's why. One could argue it seemed like the Joker himself wanting to take command of his own image, which is probably true. And they really screwed it up. Joker is not this gangster, grill wearing moron that we have in what was that movie? Suicide Squad. So, however, later, we'll remember these characters are owned by a corporation, also by the people. Hopefully, I should say. It leaves upon numerous interpretations for Joker, meaning Leto. I guess Leto could be playing him again. I highly doubt that. Notes for characters has haters. Let's see what this is. Yeah, the binary form. Larson knows all too well that fans of Marvel. So this was the end of it. Being attacked on social media for making Captain Marvel a woman. What? Larson knows all too well what fans of fans of Marvel are like after being attacked on social media for making Captain Marvel a woman. She's been a woman since the 80s, at least. Now, she was black in the 80s, but she's been a woman for a long time. That character has. In her Variety interview, she claimed she didn't know about fans creating YouTube videos which Captain Marvel would fail. That has not, okay. Those two sentences do not go together. But this is cheatsheet.com. Kind of, it's yet to be expected. Yet on social media pages, fan came up after her with a vengeance, despite her clearly choosing to ignore it. I did a video on that, and it's pretty interesting. And which, really, when the actor's in the moment, social media is probably the worst. Now, listen. The press continues to get it wrong. I continue to see it wrong in articles. The reason why Daisy Ridley left because she found it a toxic environment, and Kelly Marie Tran left because of the media, not because of the fans. Get it right. Now she knows how others feel when they created something going against what some fans think is canon in a popular franchise. Star Wars fans are a good example. Yes, but when you rewrite the canon retroactively, that's not the fans. That's the fans are reacting to that, but that is the producers and the writers' problem. Do not change the characters of the past. Continue to go forward. Everyone should realize they don't completely own a character or a franchise, but the fans do. Respecting creators seems to have gone under a point where if you don't go to the bidding of the fans, the latter road, the plot destroy. Yep. Because here's what's happened. The writers have destroyed it first. Okay. And it's not just a matter of respecting the fans and what they want. Artists have found this out even way back in the 70s. There were music groups that completely changed their styles, that radically changed their message of songs, and fans sometimes embraced it, okay, and sometimes they were booed off stage. The song Garden Party is about that, where the fans expected one thing, they got something completely different. I forget who it was, but they booed him off stage. He wrote a song about it and became a pop hit. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of context, and people can accept it better. But when you completely destroy characters loved by people for generations, that's going to get some backlash, because you are really irritating 80 to 90% of the fans, not a handful. At least Larson has turned it back on impressionable fans who can use an influential pop culture character, in a healthy way without necessarily controlling what the character does in every movie. That's a run-on sentence. God, this is horrible writing. So who wrote this? Is this Greg Bryan? Yeah, cheatsheet.com has some horrible articles. And look, go ahead, go to my website and read my blog entries. And I don't write as often as I used to, and see if my sentences are as awkward to follow and hard to read. Okay, let's turn this around. And if you think I'm being unfair to some of these writers, go ahead and critique mine. Make videos about my writing. That's fine, because I will take the criticism back and improve. These people won't ever, because they don't ever care. But I found it interesting. It's basically, kind of reading between the lines. It is kind of a flimsy article, but I actually like this attitude from Larson here, that the fans ultimately own these characters. It's not really up to the creators. It's not really up to the writers. They can produce stories. This is why we get reboots of Spider-Man or Batman, and even in the comics. And sometimes they're fantastic. And here's what the fans of these characters will say constantly. Here's what I hear. I mean, I have not personally bought a comic, well, except for Ethan Van Sciver's, which I haven't got mine yet. But I hadn't purchased a comic book since the late 70s. Okay, so it's been a long, long time. But when the writing is good, even if there's a political message in there that you're trying to push forward, when the writing is good and there's a consistency with the character, the way the character's been in the past, it doesn't have to be, these characters constantly get upgraded to modern times, right? Batman is not fighting people back like he did back in the 30s anymore. You don't have Captain America fighting Nazis anymore, unless they're setting in a timeline. Sometimes you get alternate realities where maybe the Nazis won or something like that. But you don't have them, you don't get these stories change over time. They're set in modern times. They're sometimes political, but if the writing is good, even if you disagree with the political message, people will buy the comic book. And then the art. The art's the second thing. There are times, and I've heard people say that I know how the art will be fantastic and the story will be horrible, and they won't buy the book. But when you get good writing with good art, those books sell, and they still sell even today in the digital age when everybody says everything's going e-copies of everything. You will have good sales. But the writing comes first, and that's true for the movies as well. So what do you think? Do you think Larson giving Captain Marvel to the fans is good? Do you think her throwback here with Captain America? I mean, it's a Throwback Thursday photo. It keeps her mind, keeps her in the press, I guess. I don't mind this, but see, this again shows me where in the background here, underneath all of the handling by marketing people and everything else, there lurks a fangirl. And I still believe that underneath all that faux exterior that we have to see because of the way she's trained, there is a fangirl for Star Wars and for Marvel characters. And I would really like to see that expression of interest. I don't want to say love or whatever, but let's say interest and history eventually makes it to the screen, because I believe if that happens and we have good writing, Captain Marvel will be far, far better. We won't have to shoehorn her in between two huge movies. Disney will not have to buy, millions of dollars worth of tickets. We won't have all these shenanigans of exactly 25 no-shows, pre-sales at every showing in theaters across the country. We will not have pictures of claimed sold out theaters with nobody in them, and we won't have these reach out nonsense, because women have far more opportunity than they've ever had in this country. I won't say in the history of the world, because I don't know, but there are more women in colleges now than men. They get into a lot more, various levels of leadership more than men. Yeah, they're not in the STEM fields, but much of that is interest. And the more equal the society for opportunity, the more people will gravitate to the things that interest them, not the things they think they have to do to get ahead. And that has shown over and over again. Jordan Peterson has shared this. There have been multiple studies done in many countries across the world, and the same thing holds true. You will find more and more women going into, say, medical fields or teaching, in particular nursing, and fewer in STEM, when the equality, the opportunity, so the equalitarian part of it, the equal opportunity increases. They go into what truly is their passions and their interest. And I believe that is exactly where we should be heading. People should be entering fields, to make their mark in fields that truly interest them, and not just to make a buck, because that's when their real passion is, then their quality of work goes way, way up. And so I think if we get a little bit of this fangirl, just say fan, and quit saying fangirl, interest up, let her be Captain Marvel the way she thinks it should be portrayed. Not this man-hating, woman-splaining person, not someone who looks like they just swallowed a lemon in every scene. If grief needs to be expressed, express grief. If it's joy, express joy. If it's sadness, do sadness. But not just this, if I'm not stoic, I'm weak. That is pure and utter BS. So what do you think? Am I reading too much into this? Or do you think I've flipped my lid? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for subscribing. Thank you to everybody who's been clicking on the alert icon, because more and more I've seen more people hit my videos as soon as they're published. And that's awesome. So if you want to not miss a single moment, go ahead and click that bell icon, because I try to be very scheduled with these videos, but they don't always make it out on time. Plus, sometimes I'm starting to do more and more bonus videos, and those are completely off the cuff and unscheduled. So I don't want you to miss anything. So go ahead and click that notification. And for those of you joining me on BitChute, thank you so much for over there too. And click and like and share and everything. And we will see you next time. Goodbye. Yeah, it does. Cheatsheet.com. Can we lower that? No, we can only go that way. Can't go. Okay. All right. Yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on. Yes, hold on. See, I don't understand that. And then it'll sound better when it's there. Nope, that's too high. Nope. Just slide it. Yeah, that sounds better. I don't know why I'm out of breath. It's very weird. Today's been very strange. And I always waste time. Every weekend I waste time. That's a given. So, what are we going to call this? All right. 3, 2, 1.